Today, we're talking about a name that has become totally synonymous with fraud, Bernie Madoff. This is the story of what might just be history's greatest financial illusion.
And really, the whole thing comes crashing down with this one sentence. It's all one big lie. Imagine hearing that. That's what Bernie Madoff told his sons on a cold day in December 2008. And in that single moment, an entire empire just turned to dust. And here's the number, $65 billion. I mean, just try to wrap your head around that number. It's almost impossible. We're not just talking about numbers on a screen. We're talking people's entire life savings, fortunes, money for charities, all of it. Gone. Just vanished. So that leads us to the big question, right? The one we're really going to tackle here. How on earth did one guy pull this off? And not just for a little while, for decades, right under everyone's noses. Well, let's get into it.
Okay, so let's start at the end. We have to, really, with the shocking collapse that blew the lid off this $65 billion lie.
You have to understand, Bernie Madoff wasn't just some guy on Wall Street. He was basically royalty, a legend. And then, boom, almost overnight, that entire image just completely shattered. The world found out his super prestigious investment fund was, well, it wasn't real. It was all a giant elaborate fiction. So to really get how the con worked, we've got to go back. We have to look at the man himself and how he spent decades building this fortress of credibility around him. This wasn't some quick job. No, this was the long game. And here's the thing that's so wild. Madoff wasn't just acting legit. For most of his career, he was legit. I mean, look at this. He starts with just $5,000 in the 60s, becomes a true pioneer in electronic trading, and get this, he was the chairman of the NASDAQ 3 times. This guy wasn't some shady outsider. He was one of the architects of the modern financial system. This really shows you the crazy duality of the whole thing. On the one hand, you have the public Madoff, the NASDAQ chairman, the Wall Street icon. But behind the scenes, in private, he's running the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. It's been called a financial mullet. You know, business in the front, party in the back. Except here it was business in the front, massive criminal enterprise in the back. Okay, but how did he get people to trust him so much? This is where the psychology comes in, and it's genius in a terrifying way. His secret weapon was exclusivity. He never sold his fund. Instead, he made people beg to get in. You don't find Madoff, he finds you. Being a Madoff investor was a status symbol. And there was one golden rule. Don't ask too many questions. Just sit back and enjoy those returns that, funny enough, were always steady, always good, no matter what the market was doing. So he builds this incredible myth of exclusivity and genius. But what was actually happening? How did the engine of the scam actually work? Let's pop the hood and take a look. You might be surprised at how simple it was. Yep, at its core, it was just a classic Ponzi scheme. Nothing new, nothing super complex or high-tech. It's literally the oldest trick in the financial scam playbook. You take money from new investors to pay the old ones. And here's how it worked, broken down into 3 easy steps. Step 1, attract new money by promising these amazing steady returns, like 10 to 12% a year. Step 2, when the early investors want to cash out, you just use that new money to pay them. And step 3, the real key to the whole operation. You fake the paperwork. He had this ancient IBM computer that would just print out fake account statements showing fake trades that, miraculously, always made money. Yeah, when you strip away all the Wall Street fancy talk, all the complex-sounding strategies he supposedly used, it really just boiled down to this. It was the financial equivalent of trust me, bro. It wasn't about being a genius. It was about pure audacity. Now, a machine like this has a fatal flaw. It needs constant fuel. It needs a never-ending flow of new money to keep running. So, what happens when that fire hose of cash suddenly dries up? Well, that's when you get the inevitable collapse. But this is the part that drives you crazy, right? You have to be asking, couldn't anyone see what was going on? I mean, the signs had to be there. So why didn't anyone stop him? Well, here's the thing. Somebody did see it. A guy named Harry Markopoulos, a financial investigator. He basically gift-wrapped the whole case and handed it to the SEC. For years, he kept telling them, look, these numbers are mathematically impossible. It has to be a fraud. And what did the SEC do? Absolutely nothing. It was just a complete, catastrophic failure. And then,
2008 happened. The global financial crisis hits, and the whole system just goes into meltdown. Markets are in a total panic, and for the very first time, Madoff's investors all started asking for their money back at the same time. We're talking $7 billion in withdrawal requests. The problem? He didn't have billions. He only had a couple $100 million left. The music had officially stopped.
So, the music's off, there's no new cash coming in, and there's nowhere left to hide. The game was over. The only thing left to do was confess. So let's talk about that downfall and the legacy of ruin he left behind. So he sits his sons down, the sons who, by the way, worked in the legitimate part of his company, and he tells them everything. It's all one big lie. And you have to give them credit. They didn't cover for him. They went straight to the feds. The very next morning, the FBI was knocking on his penthouse door. And just like that, the whole thing was over. 150 years. That was the sentence that came down in June 2009. It was the maximum possible. The judge basically threw the book at him, sending a message: you will never walk free again. And the aftermath? It was just devastating. The victims weren't just super rich people. They were charities, retirees, normal folks who lost everything. The SEC was, of course, humiliated, and it led to some big reforms. Madoff became the symbol of financial evil, you know? His story was turned into movies and books. He was the ultimate boogeyman, right up until he died in prison back in 2021.
So in the end, what do we take away from all this? The Madoff story is so much more than just a story about money. It's a story about trust. And it leaves you with this really chilling question, doesn't it? Who's more dangerous, the obvious bad guy or the one that everybody trusts?